statistical, so unpredictable, here on the SNL network.
Yes, that is right. Welcome, everybody, on in to the Saturday Night Network for another edition of our Hot Take Show, coming to you live immediately after the Dua Lipa double duty episode of Saturday Night Live, coming to you as a presentation of LateNighter.com. My name is Jon Schneider from the SNN. So excited to be back with you to begin the journey towards the finish line of season 49. And we are doing that tonight, talking all things Dua Lipa. We have some great guests with us for the show tonight and an amazing group of friends in the chat. So we want to see your comments and thoughts on tonight's episode. So first up, let me bring in such a great friend. So happy to have her on the podcast, Victoria Franso. Victoria, how are you?
I'm doing excellent and excited to be back. What seems like a very long time, but yeah, I'm excited to be here and talk about Dua Peep.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's been a while since I got to talk to you. So excited to chat with you tonight about the show. And joining us as well is a very happy Bruins fan, the one, the only, Andrew Haskell. Haskell, how are you?
I'm exhausted, John. Today is, if you have different fandoms, today was a day, man. There was pro wrestling, there was Star Wars, there was sports, there was SNL. It has been a day, but it was a good day. And I'm excited to talk about this episode.
Yeah, me too. It's there's a lot going on in the world right now, and SNL tried to cover a lot tonight. So we're about to get into it with our hot takes or headlines from the night as we talk through. Dua Lipa is who was our second double duty host of the season. We had Bad Bunny all the way back in October, and in comes Dua Lipa, who was hosting for the first time, her third time as musical guest. And Victoria, I'd love to know from you, how are you feeling about the show tonight?
I mean, it was good. I got some giggles out of it. It wasn't, personally, I don't think it was the best episode by far, but I do think they did a solid job. C's get degrees.
Haskell, any headlines from tonight?
Almost. Does that make sense? Almost. Like there was almost like there's a few things that I felt like we were right there. And we'll get into it, that I was like, all right, now we're getting going. Up now we're getting some momentum, and then we didn't. And that both for the episode and in the grander scheme of this like entire season.
Yeah, I like Dua Lipa, and I like a lot of things in this episode. I did feel, and maybe I'll feel better when we talk it through, I did feel like tonight the writing was a little uninspired. Not necessarily weak, but uninspired. Like, I feel that this is one of those episodes, and like, I've seen every one of them that SNL's ever put out. I've seen every double duty. And sometimes when a double duty host comes in that the writers or production doesn't feel super confident in, we get episodes like this where we see, recurring characters from previous seasons. We got a couple of those tonight, and I'm happy to see them. I'm happy to see them come back, but I think them choosing to bring those back in an episode hosted by somebody like Dua Lipa is a choice that's made when you don't necessarily feel like the host has the range that they would if they were a naturally trained actor. And I get that we have to lower our expectations for somebody who's not, the natural first choice to host, even though I'm sure that everyone in the building was very excited to have her. But I will say, I think that came out a little bit tonight in the material we saw. Again, certain things I liked here tonight, we'll talk it through, but I just didn't feel like the show had the confidence in her in the way that some of the other best double duty hosts that they've had in the past. So that was my take on tonight, but I really can't wait to get into the episode tonight and talk through. First up, our cold open. We get, I guess, a local New York show, Spectrum News, New York One, Community Affairs, with Ryan Abernathy and Michael Longfellow hosting the panel tonight, which I thought was a good production choice to, give somebody who definitely needs more airtime on the show, have them front and center to kick it off. I think that's a show of confidence in him and his return to the show for season 3. I'm hoping just to see a lot more of Michael Longfellow, so glad they gave him that. He's hosting a show with a panel of Mikey Day, Heidi Gardner and Kenan Thompson, Mikey playing Doug, Heidi, Sarah, and Kenan Alphonse, all talking about the protests that are happening throughout the US and Canada on campus. And, it really is a back and forth where Kenan, as Alphonse, is explaining how he's upset that his daughter is, in fact, protesting because of all the money that he paid to send her to Columbia. So, Victoria, how'd you feel about how SNL handled tonight's cold open, the choice, and everything that went into it?
I didn't feel great about it. It felt kind of icky, if to use Gen Z words here. It's such a sensitive topic and it's such a big news story. I don't know. I think the idea of him being like, "Oh, whoa, 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 I paid too much for you to be protesting," is kind of a funny POV. But overall, I don't know. I don't feel strongly about this cold open. But it just felt like maybe too soon almost. I don't know.
Okay. Haskell, how do you feel about it tonight?
I think I'm a little bit more positive on it. From a technical standpoint, I do enjoy that SNL took a big news story from this week. They found an angle on it and they wrote a sketch. I've said it 1,000 times on this podcast. I'm not a huge fan of the wraparound cold opens where they decide that Trump is going to talk about every big news story from the week or whatever, or that somebody's going to talk about all the big news stories. They chose one, they focused in on it. And I'll give SNL a little bit of credit. Victoria, I respect your opinion on it, in that I think from a certain perspective, it can feel like you said icky, or it can feel like SNL taking a side that of maybe an older, more conservative crowd. But I think I'm going to give SNL a little bit of credit. I think they've gone young this year with a lot of their choices, and this was looking at something from a perspective of maybe some of their older viewers. So as an actual setup, I didn't mind it. I liked it a lot. I liked a lot of the choices they made. I thought after they got into all that, Kenan had a lot of good lines, but besides that, it was a little uninspired in terms of it was a classic one twist and then build off of that twist. And maybe I think it's going to be a theme of this episode. It was missing like one more curveball.
I thought it was really fascinating that they decided to cover this. I mean, it is a huge story. I appreciated that SNL doesn't shy away, at least in this case, of tackling this issue. In the Adam Driver episode in the first half of the season, they, clearly, went hard at the issue that was happening with college presidents at the time. And then, that was the, biggest story of the first half of the season, was what really happened with that cold open, what went into it, the switch, from Cecily Strong to Chloe Trost and all those headlines. So I was not expecting SNL to want to touch on this topic. I figured if they're going to do it, maybe it would be over Weekend Update. And I thought it was just really interesting. Again, like, we're not, on the SNN here, we're not the type of show that's going to get into one side or the other side or people's opinions on such a serious issue. But what I will say, we'll cover this from an SNL production angle. I think it's interesting that they went for this. I also think it's really fascinating that the angle that they chose to go down here was, probably the most benign thing you can find within the situation, which is a parent's anxiety over their kid protesting. And they just hit the beat over and over and over again, as opposed to saying, yes, we agree with the protest. No, we don't agree with the protest, or for whatever reason, one side or the other. It was really something that's like, okay, well, yeah, actually, like, I support the protest, but my kid can't be the one doing it. And I thought that was a creative way to go about it. So I didn't think that, I saw some people in the chat say it was, there wasn't like a real take there. And it was kind of like, but for me, like, I don't mind that they did that. Victoria, since you went first on the topic, I'd love to let you respond if you have any take.
Yeah,
there.
I mean, it's the POV is fine. Like, I would just say, if it wasn't this week, if it wasn't, I think the timing of it was not. It was, for me, was the hard part, because it's still very hot, and it feels like there's a lot of heat around it, and heat can be a good or bad thing depending on who you are. I just feel like not this week, maybe in the next like maybe next week or something like that. It just felt too soon. And I probably shouldn't have used the word icky, but I did hold my breath. I was like, what are they gonna do? What are
Right.
they gonna say? But I mean, I do like Keenan's character and hit the POV of that because I think a lot of parents are would feel similarly to it of we're paying a lot of money for you to show up to class, especially at like a Columbia or wherever where it costs a little bit more. Um but yeah, I mean, I I get it. I just for me it was again, the main thing is it was just maybe too soon for me.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people feel that way, so that's totally relatable for and I see some people in the chat feeling similarly. I personally just find these things interesting when you decide that you're gonna, cover this situation in one cold open and you're gonna go a certain way with it, and then now you decided to approach it this way. I just think that,
Mhm.
the difference between what we saw in the fall versus now is at least interesting within that context. So
Can I
definitely.
tell you what
Yeah,
I
go
was
ahead.
expecting in a cold open?
Of course, yeah,
That I
sure.
think would have been a very I don't mean to make a joke of it, but a very serious topic that they probably should have tackled in the cold open versus what they did later in the show, and we can talk about that later, is the Kendrick versus Drake. Like, I would have loved
Right.
for that to be, like, in the cold open, addressing especially since Kendrick dropped something a few hours ago. But no, I was actually expecting that to be the cold open was a Kendrick versus Drake situation to kind of steer
Yeah.
away from anything political or serious, but also serious.
Yeah, that is true. Personally, I think that cold opens, especially if you go back and you watch old episodes, and as we head towards the 58th, I know a lot of you will be doing that. Cold opens to me are time capsules. It's really like what
Mhm.
is happening that week and how is SNL going to choose to parody it. So for me, this is the biggest thing that's happening, and around North America right now is how students are approaching everything that's going on. I think like what 10 years down the road, if you go back to a May 2024 episode of Saturday Night Live and you watch this, at least you get some context for what is going on in the world. And I think that's probably makes more sense to do that in the cold open. Of course, if you have a better sketch and you want to move it to the cold open, that should be the priority. So I see both angles on that. All right, let's bring in Dua Lipa, who is coming out for her monologue. It talks about her making her U.S. debut 8 years ago on the Tonight Show and how she's been on Saturday Night Live. Her parents are there, very supportive, so we get to see them in the audience. I always love when SNL shows us that because they're there. You should show us them, have them be a part of the show. So I think it's fun. We get some questions being asked by the audience, including from Andrew Dismukes, who talks about his wife leaving him because he called her mom during sex. Bowen, who went to the doctor about told him to stop drinking. Weird, I guess get up on Bowen that he had there. Heidi pops in as the South Dakota governor, Kristi Noem, which we will talk about later based on what happened on Update. So a little bit of back and forth there between Dua and some of the cast members. Andrew, how do you feel about the monologue tonight?
First, it makes me feel very old that somebody could have made their debut on the Tonight Show 8 years ago, and that's not the Jay Leno era. That is firmly Jimmy Fallon Tonight Show. That makes me feel old. But she said 8 years, and I had thought about it. I was like, that's Jimmy Fallon. It was a quick monologue. There has been this line through the monologues going back a few years now to make them personal. So we see her parents there, uh, which is good. Funny joke about running into them at the club. Like I liked that. The Q&A, I don't really feel like they sunk their teeth at all into any of that. Um, I had just heard the day, or maybe even today or yesterday, of her like going out of her way to make this a very positive album and write happy songs. So like, I'm glad she got that in there as kind of a way to promote her album, which was good. I don't think anything really groundbreaking in the monologue, but I will say not a bad thing because it felt like a very sketch heavy episode. And I feel like between a quicker cold open and a quicker monologue, there was some time later in the episode. And it wasn't a train wreck of a monologue. So it was kind of worth it to kind of save that time for some stuff later in the episode.
Victoria, how do you feel about how Dua Lipa did during her monologue?
I think she was great. She has a wonderful stage presence. It's because I mean, it also doesn't, hurt that she's stunning. I love that she made it. I mean, agree with Haskell. I love that she had that personal component with her parents, who are also stunning. No, I love that it was short, sweet, had a couple of jokes in there, and then we moved on to the episode. You know, kept it succinct.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like she was confident. This was, I don't know that it's going to be a memorable monologue, but at least we had the moments of her establishing herself with the audience. I do think, when you get these nights where a performer is going to come in, a musical performer is going to come in and do comedy, it's very important that you show confidence on the stage, more so than your random one-off host. And I think she did do that. So at least the monologue made me confident that we were going to get some good things from her that night. So, I was happy with what we saw. The content itself was okay. That was it. It was nice to get to know her a little bit more. Apparently, Michael Longfellow did play Andrew's part in dress rehearsal. So not sure why they made that switch, perhaps with some of the timing of the sketches, but Andrew took over for Michael during the monologue there.
Can I ask you guys a quick question about especially the Q&As? When they go to a Q&A, do either of you have just a small disappointment when you cut to the audience and it is a cast member versus if you're a real like SNL nerd getting to see one of the writers, or B, some sort of cameo? Like, not that I want to see the cast members of SNL, of course, but I do think when you go to those Q&As and you turn in it's one of the cast members, there is a little bit of like, I thought we'd get to see a writer, or I thought, whoever, I don't know who would be in this case for Dua Lipa, but usually you're like, I thought it would be one of their castmates from this movie or TV show.
Look, I made the argument that in this era of the show, SNL has done a very bad job with building rapport with cast members and the audience. Like, if you're a cast member, we need to get to know you as a person to buy into some of the stuff you're going to do on Saturday Night Live. So when an Andrew Dismukes or a Bowen Yang appears in the monologue, I want to see them as themselves. I'm okay with that. But when a writer comes in, it does the work where you have a somewhat of a trained performer without someone that's so known to the general audience. So that is like the Easter egg for us as super fans to be like, okay, oh, wow, like that's August White. That's Alex English. Like, oh, cool. I know that's Rosebud Baker. Like, very exciting. But I don't love okay, we're going to take a cast member and pretend like nobody knows who they are. That never works for me. Victoria?
I agree with Haskell. I always, whenever I see a Q&A, I'm like, oh my gosh, who is it going to be? And I thought for sure they'd kind of keep the Barbie theme going and bring someone from the movie as a cameo. I mean, God love him. Like, Ryan Gosling's been on that show like 60 times in the past couple of weeks. I was like, will he return again? But no, he didn't. I mean, but also just nice to see them. I did love and enjoy that Kristi Noem, or they brought like that type of character into it versus just Heidi. Kind of disappointed that they didn't do more with Kristi Noem, as I thought that was a really, I don't want to say really good story, but a good thing to write about for SNL.
Yeah, there was
justice for Cricket, but
yeah, there's some material there. And are you saying that Ryan Gosling has done too much press?
No, I don't mind. I don't mind Ryan Gosling doing too much press.
Yes, we'll get into it. But let's kick off our discussion of the sketches throughout the night with a return of the Young Spicy recording session. This first appeared in the Ana de Armas episode from really our season finale from last year, pseudo season finale, where we had the return of Ego's character as one of the rappers. Keenan, I think, is now given a name, Bernard, and Devin as Young Spicy, and they're recording their little moments at the start of hip hop songs for Young Spicy and the damn Spicy and all that. So we had basically a complete reprise of this sketch, except with Dua Lipa replacing Ana de Armas. Victoria, how do you feel about this one?
What bars they had during this session. My favorite was, damn Spicy, why you only got KY jelly and a bracelet making it in your car? Like, that was so, it was such a dumb and silly one. I actually really enjoyed this iteration of it. I thought it was funny. I thought the punchlines were a lot spicier, if you will, and I think it made it work. And just like the random attacks, I don't know. I thought it was just better written on this time around than probably the first couple times we saw it.
Haskell, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I think this is sort of like what you've talked about, John. Like, I think this is a very good like way to get a new host in, especially somebody doing double duty. Like, not a lot of no blocking in this sketch really for her. It's just line delivery, and I think your enjoyment of a sketch like this that's come around a few times, like this character has been around a few times going back to when you said it started, but really this sketch and things like it have been around for a while now. Somebody in the booth, somebody out of the booth, and we go back and forth getting like directions like that, whether it be rap inspired or voiceover inspired, voice acting inspired. It's been around a while. I liked this one. I thought it was really fun. Like, I think like why you DM in high schoolers or something. Like, I thought it was just a lot of strong lines kind of built together, and it worked for me.
Yeah, I think the first time SNL ever did something like this that I can remember, they may have done one during the Ebersol era, maybe Phil Hartman as Charlton Heston as well, and then of course, Andy Samberg's Blizzard Man for a long time. So this is a trope that SNL uses as a sketch template. I actually do like this sketch, and it really is sort of like just the exact paint by numbers of what we saw last year. So I didn't mind it so much, but it just felt so easy because it was like, okay, let's just give something really, really basic to Dua Lipa. So I'm not like, again, it's not like I disliked it. I'm not criticizing it, but it just felt like there was some like cute lines, some like ha-has, but it wasn't like there wasn't anything super inspired here. And that's where I just like, I really felt like, okay, all right. Like I wouldn't have started the night with this. I know that like, for us, it's like, okay, yeah, we'll see something easy for Dua, but like, I would rather have seen something more creative to start the night to show the audience that she could stretch a little bit. So yeah, that was it for me. But I do want to talk about something that I thought was really interesting here, where we get we get a pre-tape all the way back to 1897 London, the Anomalous Man, where Dua as Evelyn was with JJ. They're watching a play. Dua wants to meet the playwright. Playwright is a guy named Peter, who is played by Sarah Sherman, who is sort of a monster that repulses people. Evelyn and Peter fall in love, and they, see lots of weird moments, which is very clearly classic Sarah Sherman. And it all results in them getting together, and they're in bed. And then all of a sudden, in 1897, Sarah Sherman has a cell phone and is two-timing Peter, and I guess two-timing, three-timing, four-timing, because all the phones drop and we get to see all the sexy pics and everything that's being sent out. And ultimately, we'll see Sarah cheating on Dua with Chloe Fineman. So, Haskell, how do you feel about this one?
So much to unpack here from the beginning. One, SNL going black and white again. SNL going like slow again. This felt like, especially from the beginning, like it could have come from a couple different eras of this show. Like, it reminded me of something that you might have seen like in the early 80s. But it also reminded me of the Evening with Pete Davidson from a few years ago. And I like sometimes when you
Because
can tell.
Pete checks all these girls.
No, more so just the pacing of it, kind of slowing it down, being really quiet. Pete Davidson probably will end up dating Sarah Sherman's character from this sketch, though. That's just who he is. But no, like I could tell from the beginning of this sketch, it was going to be one of those few times where SNL was really taking its time, and you could tell, like, all right, this is going to be a longer pre-tape. So there's that. Then there is Sarah Sherman getting into being Sarah Sherman, getting into some of that gross body humor that I think a lot of us all year have been like, it's great how much she has become part of the cast, but also like, when is Sarah Sherman going to be able to be Sarah Sherman again? So she got to do that. And then, so I was so excited about this sketch, and I thought it was a funny sketch, but I don't think it stuck the landing. I don't know if, like, when the cell phone went off and I was like that got a really good laugh out of me. I was like, all right, that's funny. Like, why does he have a cell phone? That's not, now we're playing with the time period. We're playing with what's going on. And just the idea of him being like a two-timer, being this like cheater, didn't fully live up to the expectation for me. I thought it was funny. There's a couple of funny lines. The POV, like something, some freak or something, was good, but I just think it didn't fully land for me in terms of like what the twist ending of like a really long, slow sketch should have been.
I feel you on that. I actually really like this sketch. I just felt like and this is just my SNL brain, like within the world of the sketch, obviously there's no cell phones back in 1897. Could we have done the same thing with another reveal to the fact that this person is cheating, like that the monster is cheating on Dua, without having to take it to like the modern invention of all of the cell phones? Like, is there a way that we take that pivot without also saying, okay, this takes place in like this time where cell phones existed back in 1897? If they could have done that, I think this was a slam dunk for me. But I think with the crossed wires there, it missed something a little bit. Victoria, how'd you feel about it?
I really enjoyed it. And I know, and I'm looking in the chat, that it wasn't everyone's favorite, but I really did like it. At first, I thought it was going to be a parody of Taylor Swift's music video, Fortnite, because of like Dua Lipa's outfit was just about the same, the black and white. And then having Sarah Sherman's character named Peter, which is a track on from the new album. I thought this was gonna go into a Taylor Swift world or universe or whatever they're called. But I think I was delightfully surprised by that it wasn't. I thought it was a good play on, even someone who looks like that could cheat on you ladies. So be careful out there. I thought it was a fun twist at the end.
Yeah, and let me just say, like, Sarah Sherman, you mentioned Haskell, how like we do want to see her get to like play in the SNL arena more. It is so refreshing every now and then to just get these moments from her. I liked that. What I really liked from an SNL perspective is like Sarah did her thing, but it was a little bit different than the type of thing we have seen her do. Like, I think this sort of makes me, it feels more familiar to like the Meatballs sketch from a couple seasons ago than it does to, oh, like her head's going to randomly like pop off and explode. And I like that because I think if we had seen this sketch a couple years ago, we would have been like, yes, this is what we need on SNL, like more of this. And I think it's just been so long since we've seen Sarah like completely just like body humor, like change her appearance, that type of thing. So for me, it was really refreshing to get that from Sarah. So I was happy to see this on the show tonight for sure.
Also, I want to give props to the costume and makeup department because quite frankly, it took me a second to figure out that was Sarah Sherman, even knowing that she loves to do all of that. It was so good. I was like, what? Yeah, it didn't take me too long, but it did take me a solid 3 or 4 seconds.
See, for me, the second I forget if it was like a response or a giggle, like I immediately knew it was her voice, and that's when I was like, oh, we're getting something really weird from her. But then I think there was a moment where I think it was just a close up on the face, and I really had to like look at her eyes and be like, I knew it was her voice. Is that definitely her under the makeup? So I kind of agree with you. Like, huge props to the makeup and costume department there.
And then, but then she started walking, and I was like, okay, yeah, that's that's Sarah Sherman.
I also love the touch of her, like, just her. The only thing she brings anywhere is a pile of dust. and then when like Dua kicks her out after, and she's like, okay, but like I just need my pile of dust. Like, that was so stupid. So I love that. That was great. All right. So speaking of the feud between Kendrick Lamar and Drake, we get this TV show. It's a morning show, Good Morning Greenville, where Heidi Gardner and Mikey Day are playing Gail and Mason. Classic Southern morning show. They're just talking about the cicadas, and then wow, there's just like this other story that's going on. Like, oh yeah, there's sort of this like rap thing between Kendrick Lamar and Drake, and Devin, who's playing Weatherman Derek. They keep like going to Devin to get his take on it, and he doesn't want to give it because like show is like way too white to like get into it. They also have Dua Lipa that they go to playing Wanda, who's there to piece it all together, usually a piano teacher, but there with like the board to put together all the pieces here. So I was thinking about as we were about to cover the sketch, like, oh no, are we gonna be these people? But Victoria, how did you feel about the Good Morning Greenville sketch?
It was fine. Again, I was hoping for more. I've been keeping up with the feud. Don't ask me whose side I'm on. Jingle. But I was hoping they'd do something else with it. You know what I mean? It fell flat. I was, as you mentioned earlier, it felt uninspired, in that I feel like they could have played Kendrick or Drake or done something there, or reenacted it, or did a parody of the beef or something. I think also the juxtaposition of it being, it was just too close to the spicy sketch as well for me. But I mean, overall, great job to Wanda for trying to explain it. And there are just some bits I just didn't understand. But yeah, I was looking for a lot more from it.
Haskell, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, as a setup, I don't know if it's the most inspired or the most you could have done with it. I think somebody in the chat had asked, were these recurring characters? Well, Heidi and Mikey Day playing some sort of duo where Mikey has a somewhat effeminate Southern accent. Yes, that is a recurring character in the sense that they've played these characters dozens of times with different names. Yes, it's a recurring character. But as uninspired as maybe the setup was, it did give some of the funnier lines of the night for me. I love Dua Lipa explaining like he Kendrick Lamar called Drake Canadian, and the reason he did that is he is from Toronto. Like that was a good line. And I love when he asked, "What type of rappers do you normally play in class?" He said mostly Elton John, and then cuts back to Mikey saying like, "Yeah, he's an OG rapper." Like that was a great line. So some of the back and forth of the cluelessness did create some of the funnier jokes for me for the night.
I saw Casey in the chat mentioned Potato Hole, which was a sketch that I really liked from the Dave Chappelle episode last year. A little bit different, but I see the similarities. Like I see the tones there, and I do think like one of the funnier things you can do with race humor on SNL is to just like create like a really, really awkward situation. And I felt like this sketch really works because of the pure joy, the characterization that Heidi and Mikey play here with joy of like, if you were to go on the internet, on social media, this is like the most serious thing in the world. Like, whose side are you on? Oh my God, there's another, rap track, diss track. But the way that they play it is like the most innocent, happy-go-lucky thing. And Devin playing, I think Devin was fantastic in the sketch as well. I think Devin being like so not wanting to jump in on this, and like the thought and anxiety of like knowing like him and his friends and his community is going to see like him talking about, in the context of the sketch, like him talking to Heidi and Mikey's characters there, I think creates this tension that is like palpable through the screen. So for me, I just think that all of the parts where they kept cutting to Devin gave me some like huge laughs here. I don't know that the Dua part worked for me as much as it needed to, because I just feel like it was really like the Devin versus the host that really clicked here.
Super small thing though. I liked that when they cut to Devin hiding,
I love
it
that.
appeared that he was off the actual like sketch stage, and they were just using like the studio to fill in for this studio. I don't know why I enjoyed that so much, but I did.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I see some people in chat saying like there was more that they could have done with the feud that's going on, and I like totally agree. Like they could have gone a million directions with this whole thing. I don't think that this is going to be the defining pop culture moment that, people like that parodied this pop culture moment. Like, I don't think that's going to be this. I just think this was like cute and funny, and like there was like there's some things here that I really liked. So I actually preferred what we got from Devin in this sketch versus what we got again with the Young Spicy stuff. Because to me, like him playing off Mikey and Heidi here was better than him playing off Dua and Ego in that first sketch. So yeah. All right, then we get to an interesting sketch here. So we're talking about covering a lot of things. This episode almost felt like a premiere. Like, this reminded me of Pete's episode a little bit, because we're like basically like trying to nail all the pop culture stuff that happened over the last few weeks. So in we get with a Challengers sketch, which is, talking about the new movie, the Zendaya movie, where it's a tennis movie that just came out. And we have Dua and Marcelo sort of on a date. Dua introduces her wall of 500 naked toy dolls, her Sunny Angels, who are her little boyfriends, which is also a trend that's going around now where all these things are sold out. Bowen gets green screened as her little boyfriend, and we get music from the Challengers, where then Dua is trying to, channel Zendaya and watch Marcelo and Bowen compete and go at it. And eventually they kiss, and Marcelo turns into a Sunny Angel. So were you following this one, Haskell?
No. Listen, I typically, especially on this podcast, I think this is such a productive podcast where we really try to reach for certain things, and that was maybe the worst sketch of the season. That was as bad as I've seen
But
SNL
why?
this year. There was do a Challenger sketch if you want to do a Challenger sketch. This weird connection between like trying to make it Challengers, but throwing in this, what are they called, Sunny Angels thing? Like, that's I know I'm getting old because I've SNL when I was young, like watching in middle and high school, I learned so much about the world from SNL, and then I hit that curve of like, okay, like now I know things going into SNL, and now I'm hitting that old man thing where SNL teaches me, and I just go like, what the hell is this? It was so disconnected, and it was so like cheap. That was one of those sketches where so little landed. It's one of the last sketches. I hope one of my friends, one of my family that doesn't watch SNL, I hope that's one of those sketches they don't see. So because that's when you turn around and go, this isn't very good. You watch this weekly. I was not a fan. The only things that I think really landed with anybody was the size different props of like the hand and the churro. That got some giggles out of the crowd, but it was just so disconnected for me. I wish that they had just, if they wanted to do Challengers, which I get, like I wish they found another hook on it. If they wanted to do these weird little dolls, then they should have found a different hook on it. The only accomplishment, really, I will say from this sketch is I don't know how they got those the little whatever you want to call it on the doll between Bowen's legs, like how that got through standards and practices onto live TV. I'm shocked. I was shocked. I was like, "There's no what." That was the single accomplishment of this sketch.
Okay, Victoria, what are your thoughts on this one?
I have nothing to say after that. I agree. Except I did not pay attention to the wee wee that made it through.
Yeah.
I did not see Challengers. I knew, like, I don't even know what the storyline is. I don't know anything about the dolls. I don't know. And I caught myself out loud saying what? A time or two during the sketch, but essentially everything Haskell said is what I have to say.
So I love that SNL parodied a movie that's like currently out and popular. That to me is like exciting. Like, it's very rare that SNL will do that. Like, now they're parodying movies that are like 20 or 30 years old because like monoculture doesn't really exist anymore. But like, at least we've all seen Air Bud 20 years ago. Like, that's like what SNL's mindset is for some of these things sometimes. So I don't mind that they went for this. Like, it was, I haven't seen the movie, but I've seen the trailer and I've at least heard about stuff in this movie. So I instantly recognized when like Dua Lipa put on those glasses. I'm like, okay, I know who she's trying to be here. I get the general context of this. I had no idea what the dolls had to do with the movie. And I didn't know if, if the dolls were in the movie, if there was some connection. So I'm like furiously Googling, trying to figure out like Sunny Angel Dolls Challenger movie, like what is going on here, so I could at least like get the context of the joke. And like, you are like, when you're creating this sketch and you're doing something like this, you're like really, really like running up a hill. Like you're putting yourself like at such a disadvantage, because there is like a little bit of like an education that needs to be had here. And because like, it's not that you need to, and I don't mean to sound old, but it's not that you need to, one, understand what the movie is or what the movie's parody, like what the sketch is parodying. Number two, understand what Sunny Angels dolls are. But you also need to get like how these two threads can come together. And there was like no explanation or dummy proof explanation for anybody. So if you are a younger viewer or younger listener and you get this stuff perfectly, like I'm so happy like that worked for you. But like, you're like, I was that person. Victoria was that person. Haskell was that person. We were all that person at one point that was super young and got every single reference on SNL. And even then, if they had combined like two pop culture moments like this, I still don't think that would work then. So yeah, this didn't work for me tonight, unfortunately. But
I'm just disappointed. I Googled Sunny Angels and they're so popular that there's a shortage. Like where have I been to not even know that? Like,
yeah, well, anyways.
I'm gonna go to my chiropractor in the morning. It's fine.
Yeah, but see, that's not, again, that's not my problem with the sketch. My problem isn't like, okay, if you don't know what Sunny Angel dolls are, that's fine. Like, whatever. You don't know that they're sold out. I don't care. But it didn't work in the context of the sketch. That's my only thing. Okay, but we got a pre-tape. It came up next. That was like so quick. It was blink if you miss it. But I thought this was really funny. The Ego, Mikey, Molly, Keenan, Andrew, Chloe, and Dua are in this pre-tape about It's There For Us. It takes a little bit, like a very short amount of time to get to the reveal, but in comes big ass aluminum tray of Penne alla vodka. Never too hot, never too cold, but perfect for any occasion. And I was like, now this is the type of thing that I think anybody can relate to, because everybody's been in a situation where you've seen a big ass aluminum tray of Penne alla vodka. And I thought this was the perfect amount of time for this sketch, because you got in, you got out, you gave a couple of examples, and this like gave me a great smile on my face. So Victoria, what were your thoughts on this one?
Same exact thing. I think also just thinking about how we went from not getting, can you tell we're over 30 in this podcast tonight?
Speak for yourself.
I'm 29.
You'll get there soon, Haskell.
Well,
I was 29 a few months ago. I get it. No, but it was just I think going from not getting it to, oh yeah, I very much get this. It's at every event I've ever essentially been to. Funerals, it's been at a few funerals I've been to, sports events, banquets, luncheons, wherever there's a gathering of people in a banquet hall, it's there. So I thought it was very funny. It was a universal thing that we can all laugh at. No, I think it was enough timing. It wasn't too long, wasn't too short. I think it was done just nicely. It was sweet and to the point.
Yeah, and like, by the way, like I am the perfect person for this, because like anytime I've been invited to like some sort of potluck thing where people have to bring food, which I've said on this podcast before, I don't love those things, give me anxiety. I'm like praying that there's like Penne vodka. So like this to me is like so perfect. I'm such a generic eater. Like this is right up John's alley. Haskell, your thoughts?
Yeah, I've had this. I grew up playing like high school sports and everything, so and then I coached football for a while. I've had so many team dinners, and I still, whenever I go to weddings or something with my friends who I grew up with, it's penne and it's chicken broccoli Alfredo. Like it's the two things we're always like, yeah, we're in line. We're getting our penne and our chicken broccoli Alfredo. I love that. The line of the night for me might have been like, it's not warm, but it never gets totally cold, which was great. And then I'm always the guy. I don't know about you guys. Like whenever I go to events like this and then they're packing up the food, I'm like, I'll grab a plate of penne, sure. So when he was like dumping it out, like that spoke to my soul. and echoing everything you guys said, like after a sketch that's left such a bad taste in my mouth, I needed a little penne alla vodka, but just a little bit, and it was just paced so perfectly. It didn't overstay its welcome, and it also didn't try to like tag on an extra joke with like changing. SNL has a tendency to like change the sketch at the end, like it's randomly an insurance commercial, or it was a trailer for a movie. Like, nope, they made their jokes. It's that sketch. I promise you that thing's gonna be all over TikTok the next couple of days because it's so relatable, and it's just the perfect size, like the perfect length to like quickly make the joke and get out.
I went to a bachelor party last summer, or it was last summer or 2 summers ago, last couple of years, and they had hired a chef like to come up to like a country house where we were going to stay. Chef got COVID, so they couldn't come up. So they were like, "Oh, we'll just get some Italian food." So they ordered like way too much penne alla vodka, and like for all the activities, we just like brought the penne like wherever we went just to like eat it because we had to finish it. So again, speaks to me. We're the Olive Garden generation. We're the penne alla vodka generation. So I think that this was a really fun moment here. Dua Lipa comes in next with some music. So we get her performing Illusion and Happy For You with introductions by Troye Sivan, who we got to see made fun of a little bit earlier in the season on Saturday Night Live, was a previous musical guest, and Jerry Seinfeld, who we will talk about in just a little bit. So let's talk about Dua Lipa's music tonight. Victoria, did you enjoy it?
Yes, and okay, so she talked about this in her monologue about how people say, "Yes, give me nothing" when it comes to her dancing, but she was given something in like the best way. So I really enjoyed it. I enjoy her music a lot.
Haskell?
Yeah, she's a really talented performer. She has such great stage presence. Victoria, how do you describe her at the top of the show? If you
Dula Peep,
No, and I'm gonna forget. You had a great adjective for her and her parents, and uh, I
stunning,
stunning. Is that what it is? Yeah,
stunning.
she's stunning. I don't, and I want to say that in the most respectful way possible. That like she's stunning in a way that she just has this incredible stage presence. It probably doesn't hurt that she is incredibly beautiful. Her music is not for me, it's like very radio music to me. It's I like all of her music for a while now is like I'll catch the last 30 seconds on the radio and be like, that was kind of catchy, but not something I would go out of my way to listen to. But that doesn't take away the fact that I think she is a incredible performer that just has she has a little bit of that it factor, and I think it's only going to grow from here. Like I think we're going to see her do more in terms of acting, and I actually think she's probably primed after this album to kind of go in a different direction and do something out of the box with kind of her musical talents.
I've always loved her as a performer. I think that she's confident, clearly like looks fantastic when she's out there. And I think that her blend of disco and pop like has always worked for me. I'm like a sucker for 70s disco music and like just like those like great hits. Like I still like enjoy playing those at parties. I enjoy listening to those whenever they're on. Like and for me, like she's one of the pop artists, like only pop artists now that really just like like injects disco into her music, and I think she's awesome. So happy to see her perform. I think like there's a lot of great songs that she had recently. I would have been happy to see any of them. So for me, I thought she was great tonight for performing. Let's head over to Weekend Update, where we get a couple notables for Colin Jost and Michael Che. So first of all, I just want to say Colin Jost recently performed at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. I thought he was awesome. So if you haven't watched that, go check it out. That's available on YouTube now as well. Michael Che, this was his 200th episode at Saturday Night Live, 200th episode as a Weekend Update anchor as well. So it's been a long time that we've had Michael Che on the show, and he's only the 8th cast member ever to get to 200 episodes on the show. So congrats to Michael Che on that. 3 different correspondents here that will join the update desk. First, we have Kristi Noem's other dog, played by Marcello, playing on some buttons with a voiceover by JAJ. So we'll start with that one. Victoria, your thoughts on Kristi Noem's other dog, played by Marcello?
I'm going to say this with my whole chest. Justice for Cricket. No, I thought it was funny to get the dog, like her other dog's POV. Again, I said that I wish they had done more with Kristi Noem it's the one thing everyone was like, "What the f?" Uh, and that's what brought Republicans and Democrats together this week. But I thought it was a fun, quirky way of showing the dog's POV. I love the button work, and the phrases of "I am done tonight. She will shoot me," or whatever it is, and just the whole bit being he's sucking up and defending her so that he gets saved. I thought it was pretty cute. Not cute, but funny.
Yeah, you know what? I really think I questioned the first couple times Marcelo has come out as like playing like a thing or like something that isn't himself. But I just think that's gonna be like what he does now. This may be his new comfort zone of playing, a dog, or whatever it is, So for me, Haskell, I thought he had a lot of confidence tonight in the performance. I think this was cute, and I think the buttons with JJ, like playing off of that, was really great. What do you think?
Yeah, I think this was one of my favorite. This is one of my favorite weekend updates of the year. It was also one of my favorite weekend update pieces of the year because I think his confidence came from really having a direction to go with this. I think a lot of times this year specifically, they've brought on these things like somebody playing a non-human character and not really having a finite direction to go in. And this one had such a clear direction of like, he is scared, he needs help. And it just worked really well. And they did it in a few different ways with I thought the bringing out the buttons was such a smart idea. Like if you're on social media, you know that there's people that use these with their dogs now. Another great line from the night was like, there was a button from Mar-a-Lago. Like I thought that was a great line from Colin Jost. Like, so I really, really, really enjoyed this correspondent, but, and we'll get to in a second, like, and then it got blown away for me a couple minutes later, but I really, really enjoyed this. This like 7-minute stretch was probably my favorite 7 minutes of the episode.
Wait, blown away in a good way or a bad way?
Blown away in a good way.
Okay.
Well, let's get into it. Let's talk about Chloe Fineman, who comes out next as JoJo Siwa. She previously played JoJo Siwa in the Tom Hanks SNL at Home episode. So back when JoJo wasn't in her bad girl era. So this was really fun to see. You know what? I was actually expecting some sort of JoJo Siwa thing going on last episode. I know we had Caitlin Clark on update, and there maybe not have been time to do something like this, but this was a story that originated a few weeks ago about JoJo Siwa's like new look and personality and all this stuff. And honestly, I think Chloe Fineman's having a really great 2024. I think, like the last time she was on update, she did that TikTok thing. I think that was super underrated. I'm really impressed with the stuff she's bringing to the show. I think that she's showing a lot more confidence in her performances this year compared to the last couple. And I want to give her some credit when she deserves it. So Haskell, how do you feel about the JoJo Siwa one?
This was the best correspondent of the year. This was awesome. Chloe Fineman threw herself into that. You could tell how much fun she was having. And it felt like old school weekend update, kind of roasting a celebrity a little bit. I feel like SNL's gotten a little bit, with the exception of like Trump and Biden, they've played it a little safe with it's like, it's either bad celebrity that we're going to roast or good celebrity that we're going to handle with kid gloves. And I don't think they were coming out saying like JoJo Siwa is this terrible person. But it was just like, all right, she's been a little ridiculous. She's been a little over the top. And now we're going to make fun of it. Without like, I do think there was some teeth to it. I do think I want to say this in a way that doesn't make me sound bad. Like, I think it towed the line on being mean-spirited. And I think sometimes that's what roasting somebody is. And I think that's what they were doing. They were roasting her a little bit in maybe a week where that happens. You know what I mean? And it was just... It was just a great performance from Chloe Fineman. That was my favorite thing of the night.
Victoria, do you agree?
I agree. It was also very on point with all of the clips we've seen of JoJo Siwa. I don't have anything against JoJo Siwa, but I saw too much of her, so I blocked her on TikTok. But that did not stop her from showing up all over my For You page. I even stopped liking the content, that were all the jokes and parodies, and it still kept coming. And so to see it kind of personified in the show on Weekend Update was kind of as good as it's gonna get. Like that is the that as an SNL and comedy fan, I think it was very on point. Agree with Haskell. Chloe is getting into her groove, and I think she's finding herself in her comedic and artistry journey. And I just love that, like, you can tell, like, she was about to break for a second and she was really energetic. She even did the dance, which I'm not going to try to do for anybody.
Do it.
No, only Pascal does it with me.
No, it doesn't look like it's happening.
No, but I think it was.
I nailed it.
You, I thought you were JoJo for a second. But no, I think I like it was really great. Yeah.
This is really solid. And look, if you are the type of person, as you mentioned, Victoria, that would mute or block JoJo Siwa on TikTok, I think you had to like this because you're like, okay, you know, bombarded with all of everything that she's bringing, and then Chloe's just gonna, you know, subtly rip her, and I think it worked. So I agree. But then we get a really big surprise, or maybe not, because you know, somebody who's been doing a lot of press lately. In comes Jerry Seinfeld, of course, you know, very famous stand-up, who has also hosted Saturday Night Live a couple times, made some cameos in the past. I mean, everybody knows Jerry Seinfeld, but he's promoting Unfrosted, and you know, it was like to me, even though he's been all over the place, it was definitely unexpected to see him on Saturday Night Live. Like he's just feels like from another era. To see him at the show was interesting to me. So I'm curious how both of you felt about it in the chat as well. Victoria, what were your thoughts on seeing Jerry at the desk?
All I'm going to say is I agree. He's been doing too much press. That's all.
Haskell?
I was very excited when he popped up. I watched Unfrosted today. I know reviews are mixed. I really enjoyed it, actually. I thought it was a fun movie. My disappointment was I thought, and I don't know if things got cut because it was incredibly quick. It was the third correspondent, which is not common. But when they said, you know, sometimes you do too much press, I thought the hook was going to be how if you're doing as much press as Jerry Seinfeld, you're going to say something stupid. And I thought it was going to come back to the, you know, the kind of the controversy this week of him saying he couldn't do Seinfeld today. And there's a lot of people saying you couldn't do Seinfeld today. Curb Your Enthusiasm ended this year and was doing Seinfeld stuff. And Always Sunny in Philadelphia has been on for 16 years, like, or 16 seasons, I should say. Like, I thought that they were going to really address that head on. And just the idea of, like, Jerry's tired and doing too much and doesn't really know what he's doing. Like, and the Rich Eisen joke felt flat. Like, and I thought the audience in general wasn't into Seinfeld. Like, the whole thing felt flat. That one especially was like, I don't think anybody in the crowd knew who Rich Eisen was. And they got a little bit of a laugh when they realized it's a sports show, but
yeah, I mean, the crowd was dead tonight. The
crowd was dead, and that was Che especially had to deal with that. But I just thought like it didn't feel worth bringing Jerry Seinfeld into Weekend Update to make a couple jokes about him doing press and being tired and then taking a phone call. I wish they really picked up on like he kind of put his foot in his mouth a few times this week, and they faced that head on.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think he has done that before. So like I've seen him like face things head on and talk through them and like really, you know, get people back on Jerry's side. So like I sort of did expect it to go harder in the paint with what he was bringing to the show. I thought the Ryan Gosling thing was really funny in context of Mikey Day and Ryan Gosling doing Beavis and Butthead at the Fall Guy premiere on Monday. Like I thought that was a cute thing to go to. But yeah, I mean, it almost felt like to me, like I used to love Seinfeld and a lot of things that Jerry did. But to me, it felt more like, oh, cool, Jerry Seinfeld's there, more than the context of what he was actually doing. So yeah. Then we have, after update, let's head over to our OBGYN sketch where Ego and Mikey are having a baby. Dua plays the nurse, and Keenan is not Dr. Fat Daddy, just Fat Daddy. He's going to come in and he's going to, have some sauce on his jacket. He's going to rub her belly with some condiments. And Punky will come in at the end as well. This was I don't even know where to start with this, Victoria. This was an interesting sketch. Very it felt very Keenan-esque, which is something that they have not done at all in the last year. So this felt like Keenan getting to do something that I haven't seen him do in a while on SNL. What do you think, Victoria?
It was so wonderfully chaotic in the best way. This was my favorite of the night. I don't know what that says about me and my sense of humor, but I enjoyed it. I loved everything. I mean, one, I loved that they usually do what's it called? The belly, just, a pillow under a dress or something, but it made it look real. And I was like, wait, what? Did I miss something? That's how good the costume and props was. But everything from this barbecue sauce stains, all the details were there in the right place for me. The barbecue sauce stains, rubbing her stomach, being like, oh, I don't see a baby, taking tongs and going in, and then, cherry on top of him licking his fingers when he was done it was so dumb. I loved it. Yeah.
Dumb. It was super dumb. I'm still trying to work through my brain what was missing from the sketch for me, but it was dumb. It was interesting that they went for this meta ending with the newspaper about how, I don't know if you guys saw on the side, they had an extra headline that said SNL's in hot water after a finger licking bad sketch. Interesting in how they called themselves out for how bad the sketch is. It reminded me a little bit of the Hubs Gyros, you like it a juice sketches where they're should we just end the sketch now? And it gets so meta. It was weird. Haskell, what do you think of it?
It brought me immediately back. Have you ever seen JB Smoove talk about his rejected pitches on Seth Meyers? Because he talks about a sketch that he pitched during the recession of a bank teller who goes to work at Subway, and he keeps treating the meats at Subway like money. So he's licking his fingers and doing it. And oh my! If you haven't seen the clip, look it up on YouTube. It's him on late with Seth Meyers. But I thought this was the sketch where they really, no pun intended, got all the meat off the bone. They did kind of everything you could with that. I kind of feel like somebody went and got barbecue this week and was watching everything from the writing down the order on the brown deli paper was great. I feel like they took every opportunity they could to do everything they could with that profession. I thought it was really good. The finger looking was like a car crash. I just couldn't really look away. I was like, oh, that's just gross, but it's funny. And I think I actually thought the newspaper at the end, when I caught that SNL's in hot water, I actually thought it was kind of clever. I was like, I could see tomorrow people online not being happy with the connotation around licking his finger and from what he was, what I mean? I could see there being a bit of a reaction to it.
Why?
And SNL just, I don't want to get too deep into it. The idea of a doctor giving an exam and then licking his fingers, I think would constitute sexual harassment or assault. More so assault, I guess, right?
Okay.
I didn't think that far. That's how dumb I am.
Well, here's what I think. I think if I would have put myself in the writer's room, I think they wrote the sketch, and then another writer walked in and was like, or a producer walked in and went, I don't know, guys. And then they add that tag to be like, okay, well, let's at least acknowledge it then. So I thought it was a clever way to acknowledge it.
Interesting. I mean, I didn't really think that. I just think it was supposed to be very silly. I don't think that they maybe thought that through at all. But I honestly think that this was a really last sketch of the night for me. I really felt like this should have been the last thing we see because it was so silly And I love that. I just really love that, like right at the end of the night, because that is the point of the night where I can deal with a sketch that has no explanation. And there was like no reason why Fat Daddy here was an OBGYN. And like I was looking for the explanation of like how did this person, like I thought at one point there was some other sketch in SNL history where like at some point like the real doctor walks in and they're like, hey, like that's not your OBGYN, like I'm the OBGYN. And I thought that's where this was going to like explain the sketch, but I wouldn't have thought that if that was the last sketch of the night. So I don't know if that makes sense and if some of the chat would agree with me on that. But yeah.
I do think it was a sillier to actually make it this really like earnest, like, yeah, like I opened up a barbecue place, I'm good at barbecue, but being an OBGYN, like that's my true calling, like that's who I am. Like I
guess,
think making it like earnest is actually sillier than doing like a switcheroo or for some reason he's not supposed to be there.
It would have I thought it was gonna go more so the route of kind of what John said, but it was just him doing like door-to-door marketing, advertising
Right.
of him like entering these places like or guerrilla marketing or whatever it is to promote his new restaurant. I thought that was because he never really says, oh, because when Mikey asked him, when did you get your degree? He never really answers it. So I thought it was gonna be like, or turn into a commercial for the restaurant or something.
Yeah, I mean, if this was another era, we would see Fat Daddy in all different types of occupations, putting his, finger licking and all this stuff. So, um, yeah, it was gave me some laughs. All right, teeny tiny statement pin is our last pre-tape of the night. We got a JJ voiceover, Bo and Dua and Heidi. Obviously, the Met Gala is coming up on Monday, so they did something related to that. I think this was good in the context of the fact that the Met Gala is coming up, and a lot of people will be wearing support cause pins. And so this was something that I think could certainly see passed around. We got Marcelo in this one as well, and Chloe playing Anna Wintour, obviously who invites people, and I don't know what the right term is, but is very much in charge of the Met Gala. So yeah, this was interesting in the context of what is happening coming up. So Haskell, your thoughts on teeny tiny statement pin?
I thought it's a very poignant sketch to begin with. I do think wherever your politics are, I think there is a bit of a cultural shift going on where celebrities are feeling it, and I think the public is feeling it, where there was a time where it was like, if you're not using your platform for this, then you don't deserve a platform. And I think all these things are cyclical in nature, right? The 80s were more conservative than times are now, and things go, but there were things in the 70s that were more liberal that led to that, and we just go up and down that way. And I think we're getting a little bit into a point where even if you're incredibly left leaning or you're incredibly into like you need to use your platform, I think people are moving a little bit closer to like, okay, I'm so tired and I'm so stressed and I just want to watch this award show. I just want to watch the Met Gala and I don't need this thrown in my face all the time. So I thought it was really poignant. On top of that, I thought it was really funny. I thought the use of the pins gave them a joke bucket to go into, which was really cool. There was a lot of really funny ones. There was I don't even remember now, it's so late at night, but there was one joke that was pinned on top of like a Trump is hot one that I thought was really good. So it landed because the pins landed themselves, and they wrote some really funny pins. The juxtaposition of like the vague ones, like this has to stop, or you can wear this has to start, was a really good one. So a lot of landed there. I actually wondered if this could have worked even earlier in the night.
Victoria, your thoughts?
I think the same thing. It's seldom that I'm kind of on par with most of what Haskell has to say in a, in a round table, but we're here for it. Whenever we're together, I should say. We usually tend to be on the other side of the coin. But I thought they also casted this correctly in terms of, they casted the folks who are vocal about the issues and use their platforms to spread awareness on things. So I think it helped kind of not make it seem like SNL feels a certain way about certain things, if that makes sense. I'm trying to find the wording there. But yeah, I thought the pin that had like 1,000 words on it where you need a magnifying glass was funny, and just the vagueness of it all. My favorite was the no baby, no cat one.
Yeah.
Like, very, again, throwing in dumb jokes, utilizing the moment of, the Met Gala is coming up on Monday. Throw in, there are a lot of other great pieces too. Like, again, Chloe doing her wonderful impressions and adding where it adds to the bit too. And just, again, shout out to the what is it called, set department, because that looked beautiful, but they could have been at the Met. Who knows? I think it was so great that they did it pretty well.
I think this accomplished everything it needed to.
Mhm.
You hit a bunch of jokes. It was like topical. And yeah, I think the only thing, like, they could have stretched it maybe and come up with more ridiculous ideas for pins, but then you sort of lose the bite of some of the other pins. So overall, I thought this was solid. I think the pre-tapes were really strong tonight. Then our final sketch of the night is the return of the jingle pitch that we last saw in the Jenna Ortega episode. And this was sort of like one of the breakout moments last season where we were talking about the partnership between James Austin Johnson and Andrew Dismukes and getting to see them together in a sketch. And we get the return of Soul Booth, Bowen's character that likes to get looched at Luciano's, Devin and Chloe Fineman here. And they come around and they sing the numbers and all the catchy jingles. So, Victoria, were you happy to see this one return as our final sketch of the night?
I did. Again, I thought it was just very silly. It was missing something for me. I can't pinpoint exactly what it was, but I loved like the random lines. I forgot what Andrew Dismukes barked, but he yelled out something. It was a one-syllable word, or maybe it was a number, and I
One.
just died. And I just started laughing. I thought it was so funny. I love the line of getting Dak down. I thought it just had a lot of funny punchlines. I also just love to see JJ doing not Trump. So wherever I can get him doing that, I will take. And that's not to say I don't like nor appreciate his Trump. I just don't want to have him pigeonholed into doing it. I think it was a silly, fun thing they could do at the end of it that, I thought I was hoping for more of like actual singing from Dua Lipa, but yeah, I thought it was just a nice, all right, we're at the end of the night. Let's do this.
I gotta say, like, I think that the best part of both of these versions of the sketch, the Jenna one and the Dua one, has to be JJ and Andrew here. And that seems like an obvious statement, but I just feel like their roles in this sketch, coming up with the jingles, singing the jingles, walking around with the energy, like that to me is like so much stronger than everything else that happens in this sketch around it. I just don't know that like the whole like, oh, but like we need to make it more looched, like does anything for me beyond like trying to escalate their numbers. So I just think that every time that the focus turned to somebody else, like it lost me in this sketch. But I do think that like them together as a duo is so like enticing to just continue to like watch them together. Again, like it harkens me back to some of the better duos over the last few decades about like what these two can do on screen together. So I do like it within that context. Haskell, your thoughts?
I want to combine, one thing that you said, one thing that Victoria said, which is like you said, like whenever they turned away from them, we lost something. Victoria, you said you wanted to see a little bit more from Dua Lipa. I think Dua Lipa was on the wrong side of the sketch. Like I think this would have been a perfect time to like bring in like the female version of these guys and have her be in on like the lunacy with these guys. I'll echo, yes, I think JAJ and Dismukes need more time to work together and not be an end of the episode thing and just to see it more. The only thing about this was that I think the idea that the first song that they write, like separating the numbers in a weird way, was too obvious for me. Like I would have, if you gave me 1,000 guesses on what the first song would have been, that would have been my first guess. They're going to sing the song in a way where the number doesn't make sense. The last song that they sang was where it started to hit with me, of them both now singing at the same time and the nonsense kind of overlapping with each other. I wish we got that earlier in the sketch and it would have hit for me a lot harder. Not that I liked it and I like these characters and I like when these two work together. I think there was just a little bit something missing on that one.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. I do think that Duo is on the wrong side of the desk. I also think, Oversimplified Productions in the chat said this needed a little Trost. That would have been a perfect spot for Chloe Trost to put them all together, the three of them. Chloe Trost, I believe, was shut out from tonight. So apologies if I missed anything that she was in, but I don't think I saw her throughout the night. So this could have been something that would have been really good for her. I know that the pairing, they probably, they write this sketch together and they don't necessarily do it, but we're talking about how do you bring a sketch that people like to another level. I think you got to inject something in it like that. So parts I enjoyed. Interesting way to end the night. Let's talk about what was cut from this episode while all of you think about how you're going to rate tonight's episode out of 10. So in the chat, think about it, put those comments in, and I'll put them up on screen. And Victoria and Haskell, you think while I tell you that we had a few sketches that were cut for time and address. So cut for time tonight that would have made it onto the show was a sketch called What Would You Do? It's a hidden camera show featuring Dismukes, Marcelo, Molly, Ego, and Dua Lipa. Cut at Dress tonight. First is the Class of 2024 song. This sounded really interesting, featuring Chloe Trost, Bowen, Longfellow, Marcelo, Ego, and Andrew singing about graduating college after 4 turbulent years since they graduated high school in COVID. It was a parody of Vitamin C's graduation. Keenan and JJ also appeared. Very similar to the Year of a Thousand Men sketch that we got from Molly Shannon's episode last season. I really wish we saw that one. That sounded really good to me. Nosh was a sketch that was cut. That was Mikey, Dua Lipa, and Heidi claiming they are celebrities at a Malibu restaurant. That kind of sounds like a Dana Carvey sketch from back in the day. An endless 6-minute setup with Feynman and Keenan not letting them in. The person who actually had the reservation was none other than Colin Jost. So Colin was in this sketch. Favorite song was a sketch that was cut. This was Dua Lipa, Andrew Bowen, Ego, and Molly singing "No Don't Matter" by Akon. Like nobody wanna see us do that one. "Don't Matter" by Akon. Andrew only knows the chorus, and Dua Lipa calls him out for that, despite it being his favorite song. We also had a sketch that was cut called "Babysitter," and that was also cut from the Sydney Sweeney episode. Same exact one as the Sydney Sweeney one. So if you want to hear what about that sketch, go back to the Sydney Sweeney discussion of cut sketches. And that was what was cut from the episode tonight. Victoria, how are you going to rate tonight's episode?
Oh boy, I think I'm going to go with a 6 out of 10. I think it was above average. Again, they had some great lines that kind of bumped it up to above, over that halfway mark for me.
Haskell?
I'm gonna go with a 6.8 out of 10. I think it's just short of being a C. I just think there's a lot of good in this episode. But this episode was just a whole lot of, they could have done more, missed opportunity. They could have dove a little deeper. Felt like the entire night. I probably would have gotten us up to an 8 if we got that graduation song though. Like that, I'm really disappointed. Hope that comes back for the finale.
Yeah, that could be a lot of fun. I think I'm going to go same here with 6. I'm really feeling like had a lot of sketches had some potential here. I think the pre-tapes were pretty solid. There was a couple sketches that I thought were good. Maybe I don't know if I had anything that I was like going to say is the best of the season. Like when we're compiling our best moments of the season, are we taking anything away from the episode tonight? Not really sure. I just think Dua was a solid host, but I don't know that the writers, like I said, really trusted her to do anything that was like going to wow us or be like, oh, wow, we didn't know that Dua Lipa could do that, or so cool that Dua Lipa did this. Pretty run of the mill episode for the season, maybe slightly above average in terms of overall quality, but there was a couple moments I think we'll talk about on Monday that I think were interesting, especially those pre-tapes. So looking forward to doing that on the roundtable on Monday night. Can't wait to get into this episode even more with all of you who join us. We're going to have a great panel on Monday to break down the episode. Wednesday, by the numbers, we'll be back. We'll talk about all the screen time from the week. So looking forward to going through all the stats from this week's episode. And then, of course, we'll have our SNL sketch breakdown for you on Patreon. So if you're a patron of the SNN, you can always join and vote for the sketch that you want us to break down even further. So that's really fun. We get into a lot of details on those breakdowns, including some behind the scenes info on the sketches, some writer stuff. So it is a really, really fun extra SNL coverage that we do during the week on Patreon. So you can check that out. And then, of course, we will be back next Saturday night for the return of, it feels like she hasn't been gone for very long, but the return of Maya Rudolph hosting for the third time with music from Vampire Weekend. So it'll be a lot of fun to talk about that episode as we head towards the finale of season 49. Victoria, thank you for joining us. Tell the listeners what you've been up to.
Well, I finished my, well, one, thank you for having me. It was really fun to talk to both of you tonight. But I had my SNL showcase at the Second City a few weeks ago, which was really great and seemingly well received. It was fun to meet some of the Saturday Night Network folks and fans there. Really appreciate everyone who did come out and support. But for now, I am taking a mini break. I'm not doing anything. I don't have a job. I'm not performing. I'm doing nothing, which is great for the time being. But you can follow me at Victoria F on Instagram. Find out if I am doing something. But everyone should prioritize their mental and physical health if and when they can. But yeah, that's it for me.
Absolutely. And I know I said this off the podcast, but I'll say it on the podcast. Victoria, we are all very proud of you. So keep up what you're doing. Looking forward to seeing what you're going to accomplish. So keep it up. Haskell, please tell the listeners what you're up to.
Yeah, I got two quick things. I'm going to make it as quick as possible. This is my little season finale for SNN. I'm going to be taking a little bit of a break. My first child is due in a couple weeks, and I just want to say it's been a very, change of lifetime, and there's been some nights where I just need some comfort, and having this podcast to go back and listen to and seeing the comments, I just say everybody that listens to the podcast, thank you for this community. It's been amazing, and I can't wait to be back hopefully sometime over the summer when we do some off-season stuff. So I'll look forward to talking with you guys. But on top of that, I do need to let everybody know my book. I wrote a book, The Last Murder in Little Bridge. It is a very silly comedy, light read. It's I like to say it's Only Murders in the Building meets Parks and Recreation. So if that seems up your alley, it's available on Amazon. Please check it out and leave a 5-star review if you would. The Last Murder in Little Bridge. John, thank you. This was a great episode, and I cannot wait to be back.
Wow. So much there. Yeah. Well, first of all, congrats on the book. That's absolutely fantastic. Can't wait to get one myself. So please go out and get that if you want to support our friend Haskell, and Daddy Haskell will be back with us next season. So we're renewing his contract for season 5 with the show. But thank you for all your contributions to the show. Good luck with everything, Haskell. We're so happy and for you and your entire family. For everything that's going on here at the SNN, if you don't want to miss any of the episodes, you got to subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. You can always leave us a review or leave us some comments to let us know what you think, and it helps people find the show. So we do really appreciate that. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X at the SNL Network. You get to see all the stuff we're going to be posting about Maya Rudolph this week. So it should be a lot of fun there. Make sure to give us a follow. You can always say hello in the DMs. Always happy to talk to any of the listeners of the podcast. And you can always follow me at Jon Schneider 24. I want to thank our presenting partner for the show tonight, and that would be latenighter.com. So many great things that they're posting on their website about late night television. And on behalf of Victoria and Haskell and everybody who joined us in the chat tonight, my name is Jon Schneider from the SNN. We will see you next time, everybody. Have a good one.